In space, no one can hear you. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way to review the most recent entry in the Alien franchise film, whatever the hell you want to call it, franchise. I'm just gonna call it film saga, but that kind of makes it sound like it's a continuing story, which unfortunately it isn't. When you've got decades long franchise, you basically, the movies that come out at any given stage of the franchise are just going to be, they're going to be at the whim of whatever trend is currently going on at the time. Luckily, the Alien franchise kind of, they weren't making movies during the remake. The remake craze or whatever. So what basically at this time of filming this review and the year of the release of the film, the Alien franchise, or the first Alien film, came out 45 years ago. Incidentally, I saw it for the very first time 35 years ago when I was 12, and I actually did see Aliens at the drive-in theater with my dad when I was probably, what the hell would I have been then, 9? And it kind of scared me, so I did actually see Aliens before I saw Alien, but it wouldn't be until I was older that I saw Alien, and it kind of definitely freaked the crap out of me. And for the record, my opinion is that the first film, Alien, is the best one and my favorite one, and I suppose Aliens would be the second best and my second favorite one, and things like that. So I just had to rethink about it last night after we saw it. I was just like, okay, so after Resurrection in '97, there was nothing until Prometheus? Is that correct? That seems like a lot of time going by without any Alien/Aliens movies. And for the record, I did like Prometheus. It was great to have Ridley Scott back, and I did like Prometheus. Was it amazing? Was it perfect? No. Did I wish it could have been just a prequel in one movie instead of like the first part of at the time planned trilogy or whatever the hell their plans were? I kind of wished it had just been a one and done kind of a thing, especially since they're not going to complete the proposed trilogy. Is just so freaking annoying. Alien Covenant I thought was far less superior to Prometheus, and I was probably had some studio pressure to obviously get an alien in there and get the word alien in the title and this kind of stuff. It would have been really cool if they just would have done what I can only assume was Ridley Scott's vision of doing 3 movies without the word alien in any of the titles or whatever. And I really liked, the trajectory that they started, or Ridley Scott and company started with Prometheus, and then even bits and pieces, although I don't really like Alien Covenant crazy much at all. The aspect I do like about it is the story of, David's story with the synthetic. And then what was really cool about Covenant is having the other kind of synthetic that was like David's brother, if you will, and the stuff that went on with that. So I actually, I didn't really like Covenant, but I liked the David aspects, and I can't remember what the other synthetic that was the same guy playing the other synthetic was named or whatever, but he had a different accent and stuff, which was funny and stuff. But obviously, after and I want to say, is it frickin' Covenant? Was it 9? Did it come out 9 years ago? If that's true, that's absolutely insane. I can remember after the day I saw Covenant, I actually went and bought right after because I was so feeling like just alien-esque kind of the alien-ish. Then I went and bought the Xbox 360 game Alien Isolation or whatever, because I just love the world and that was created for the first Alien film, and the production design and the sound design and stuff. And for the record, Alien Isolation is really, really, if you're a big fan of the first movie, Alien movie, I would highly recommend Alien Isolation. But yeah, so that was that 9 years ago? That's just absolutely insane if that's the case. So unfortunately, in between the release of Covenant and this film, obviously the D company bought Fox, and honestly, I was interested in seeing this movie, and I knew I would. And then after it came out, I'm like, God, do I even want to bother going to the theater to see it? I'm glad I did, because the theater we did see it in was had nice sound, and it was definitely something to kind of experience on the big screen or whatever. So I'm glad we did see it in the theater, and honestly, I liked the movie a lot more than I thought I would. I mean, being an alien film made by the D company, I was just like, you know, especially with what's been going on with the D Company as of late and stuff, I was like, God, what the hell is this, you know, am I going to like anything about it? And what's really weird about this movie for me is it's like, I've been, you know, we saw it last night, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't think it's particularly a good movie, but I liked it. It's a weird situation where it's kind of like, I can admit that it's like not doing much in you know, in the means of treading new ground or doing anything new. But what's interesting about it, and I talked about, you know, earlier in this review, I talked about that you know, the Alien franchise was lucky to not be putting out any movies during the remake craze. Well, now we find ourselves in the whatever it's called, requel craze, where it's the sequel to the movie that's 40 years old or 40 plus years old. So basically, if you do not know, and even if you do know, this is a sequel more or less to Alien, the first film. And it's what's really funny about it is, obviously, like I said, we're in the requel phase where, you know, I guess in a way, did a movie start it? Did Halloween 2018 start it, or was there something before that started it? It was somewhere around that time where it was like, ooh, Halloween 2018 was like the sequel to the movie from 40 years prior, and oh boy, and look at the success. So now everyone's, you know, gonna do the requel thing or whatever. And, you know, honestly, being of the age I am, pushing 50, and having grown up with a lot of these movies, I actually, part of me doesn't really have a problem with it, because, you know, that's the main, I think that the biggest thing about the movie that I enjoyed. And you know, Ridley Scott didn't direct this, but he produced it. And honestly, you know, I do like this more than Alien Covenant, because it really does have, one thing I do like about Ridley Scott returning to the franchise, it seems like the Ridley Scott either directed and or produced, you know, sequels or whatever, we'll just call them Alien franchise movies, actually have that feel of the first movie. And there's so many, like, whatever you want to call them, Easter eggs or little details in this movie that are, you know, callbacks to the original film from '79, like, of course, and even Beth noticed it. She's like, you know, the little bird that does the dippy thing, and even those plastic cups that they had in the Nostromo, and all these kind of little minute, little just production design or these kind of really small details, sound design stuff. You know, that's the biggest thing I liked about this movie. And honestly, the characters didn't annoy the hell out of me, and I actually liked the guy who played the synthetic in this movie. And I don't know if I want to spoil the other aspect of the other synthetic. I suppose I can. I don't know if I really want to, but by the time, you know, by the time this review comes out, I mean, the movie will be really old, so it doesn't really matter. But I found myself, as the movie started and stuff, and what's really weird is, I'll simply finish my thought there. I found myself enjoying the movie and just the universe, or the alien universe that the movie creates. And what's really weird, one thing I thought off the bat that's really weird about this movie is, I think, you know, there's been how many movies ever since, you know, 1979, and they all had like sound in space. So now all of a sudden this version, or not this version, but this film in the franchise, we're going to do the more realistic kind of, you know, the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock and stuff. We're going to do the more realistic no sound in space thing. I thought that was a little strange, because there's been so many movies that already exist in the franchise that have all had sound in space. So it's kind of like, okay, now we're just not going to do sound in space. I mean, it was an interesting, like, stylistic choice, but I thought it was kind of also weird, because, as I said, to have a franchise 45 years old, and all of a sudden we're just gonna, like, okay, well, with this entry there's no sound in space. Like, it's just really weird to me. But honestly, you know, I found the little, just you know, after 9 years dipping our feet back into the Alien franchise, with Ridley Scott continuing to be a part of it, and the production design, and obviously being a kind of a sequel to Alien. And what's so funny about it is, I was talking to Beth, and, you know, after the movie, and I'm like, yeah, it was so funny, because when we were kids, and, you know, before Alien 3 came out, we were hypothesizing, like, what the third Alien movie would be called. Would you call it Alien 2? Aliens 2? Like, what do you call it? And then cut to, like, a couple years later, Alien 3 came out, and it's kind of just so fucking weird. It's like Rambo 3. Well, there's never been a Rambo 2. There hadn't even been a Rambo. But all of a sudden, we're just going to have Rambo 3. So it's like Alien 3. But we've never had an Alien 2, and I thought it would have been so funny if they would have called this Alien 2. You know, how much of a mindfuck would that have been? I mean, that would have just been so funny and just so like awesome, like awesome beyond measure. Call it Alien 2. I mean, all these decades after Alien 3 comes Alien 2. I mean, it just would have been it would have been so awesome because it is a sequel to Alien. So have it be Alien 2, that would have been so cool. But what the hell was I even saying? I think I was saying just how much the thing I like the most about the movie is that it just really wonderfully captured like the feeling of the first movie, and the first movie being my favorite, and the sound design. I think I talked about this probably in my Prometheus review and maybe my Alien Covenant review as well, that anytime there's I don't think there were any musical cues from Alien in Prometheus, but I think in Alien Covenant there were, you know, Jerry Goldsmith Alien score bits and pieces and that kind of stuff, and that's the same thing with this movie as well. Yeah, I mean that's you know that's what I like the most about this movie is just the really cool sci-fi-esque aspect of it. And admittedly, as like I say, the movie doesn't really do anything new. It's kind of in a way like a strange remake of Alien, and that's what I was gonna say is like pretty much movie sequels like, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. When every time you have a franchise, like pretty much it's kind of interesting because I talked about the Alien franchise skipping the remake era of movies coming, you know, the early 2000s or whatever, but in a way like any sequel is almost like pretty much a remake anyway, and this is very much the same thing where it's kind of like a bunch of people unknowingly come across this, you know, this ship or whatever with the facehuggers, and they turn the ship on, and the facehuggers, you know, become awake and start attacking, and thus begins this and that. So I mean, it's like nothing, you know, admittedly the movie doesn't really do anything new or anything like that, and you know, that's not surprising. But what I was surprised about is how much like I actually kind of liked you know, the characters. Like I didn't hate the characters, and I actually was kind of sympathetic for the characters, like living on this planet that never, I thought that little detail, and you have to read this stuff to even get it, but I thought that little detail of this planet in a, you know, never has any daylight, which is really kind of a really cool idea. Like, oh my god, imagine living on a planet that is just perpetual night. And this you know, this Weyland-Yutani just prison planet of like this you know, just you work towards a goal, and when you get to your goal you can leave the planet, and when you go to apply to leave the planet they say, oh, you're only halfway through the goal's been increased by double, now you'll be here for another 5 years. And just in such a short period of time at the beginning of the movie, how they just establish like just the depressive situation that these characters are in and just needing to get off. And I won't go into all the off the planet, and I won't go into all the details, but just a little, I guess, just the little details of the character details and the synthetic, you know, the way the synthetic is, the character of the synthetic in this movie, I thought was a lot more interesting than I, you know, would have ever thought they'd make a synthetic character in the relationship with the main girl character. I swear the older I get, the younger, it's like these kids look like they're 12 years old, you know, the girls and stuff. It's like, Jesus Christ, you know, when I'm pushing 50, these kids look like they're 14 years old in this movie. But, and what's with like Ridley Scott having like these short women as, ever since like Prometheus, these short, you know, final girl women. Kind of interesting, but I guess you got to represent the short women as well. But yeah, what's really weird about this movie is, and it's not the first time, like it was kind of that way with Prometheus, and you know, a little bit of that way with like Covenant as well, where it's kind of like so much of what I liked about those movies was just the production design and the sound design echoing the production and sound design from Alien. And obviously when you hear the bits and pieces of like the, you know, Alien score and this, that maybe there are little nuances or whatever, and it's all the sound design in the 1970s like fuzzy video screens and stuff, like I just eat that stuff up. And honestly, it doesn't even matter really what's happening in the movie, like all that stuff is so nostalgic for me and just so like cool that it's like, wow, you know, I can just watch a movie with that stuff and it doesn't even have to be about anything. And that's pretty much what this movie is. It isn't really about anything, or like I say, anything different that you've seen before. So that's my takeaway from this movie, is that it just so wonderfully captures it. It feels like it was made by a huge Alien fan. Like whether it was or not, I don't know, but you know, just the amount of detail in just callbacks to, you know, the first film, and just wanting to, like, I don't know, expand the universe of the first film, and you know, the years that followed the first film, and this and that. And I won't spoil the thing with the other synthetic. I'll just kind of touch around it without exposing it. And for those of you who know about the situation with the second synthetic, like, what did I feel about it? Like when we first saw the second synthetic, I was like, are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? And sure enough, they did it. And how do I feel about it? I mean, you can take it or leave it. I guess part, you know, the little kid in me was kind of like, that's cool, but I mean, it looks so, you know, even in 2024, it didn't look very good, in my opinion. If you haven't seen the movie and don't know what the hell I'm talking about, this is my way of just like trying not to spoil that, but also talking to the people who may have seen the movie watching this review. You guys will know what the hell I'm talking about. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter one way or the other what, you know, what they did with the second, you know, synthetic. Yeah, I did actually kind of like what they did with the main kind of good guy synthetic, and having him put a disc in from another one, and all of a sudden he changed, and you know, and then became a bad guy, and then take that disc out and he's back to a good guy. Like, probably the most interesting character, and it kind of like harkens back to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Maybe the most interesting character is the synthetic. Was he Andy? I want to say possibly Andy was the name. And so I thought that I really liked that character, the synthetic, honestly, and the guy who did it, I think, did really well. He kind of had this, you know, robot vibe to his physicality, which I thought was cool. And yeah, probably the most interesting stuff about the movie was the Andy, if that's his name, synthetic character. And honestly, you know, there's a big chunk of time that at the beginning of the movie, before any kind of like facehugger stuff is even starting. And honestly, when the facehugger stuff started, I know it's kind of like that's like what people are supposed to be there at the movie for. Like, the least interesting stuff to me about the movie was the alien stuff, facehugger, you know, xenomorph stuff. I was just having fun with, like, kind of like, you know, David in the Prometheus and Covenant. Like, I was just having more fun with Andy, honestly. You know, because you at this point you've done pretty much all you're going to do with that, with the facehuggers and the xenomorphs and all this kind of stuff. So I was just, to me, that's why I like Prometheus, because I'd be fine with just alien movies with no aliens, you know, because I love the Ridley Scott, you know, universe of production design and sound design and stuff so much that just make a movie within that, you know, environment, and you don't even need aliens. To me, when the aliens became a part of the plot, I'm just like, you know, I didn't hate it, but it was nothing. At this point, we've just seen it, you know, so it was no real big deal. I did mention how this movie comes out during this era of requels, or that's what you call these movies, that these sequels being made to movies that are like 40 or plus, 40 or over 40 years old or whatever. And this movie has kind of a detail that Ghostbusters Afterlife, well, it's continued in Frozen Empire as well, has, where there's this character who just has randomly, for no real reason, just saying, you know, just reciting jokes and stuff. It's just really kind of weird to me that just like with Afterlife and Frozen Empire, you've got this other requel. Is that just going to become another detail of requels? Just some character who's just, you know, saying random jokes and stuff throughout the movie, and just to try to like make the audience laugh or whatever. Or I don't know, but you know, admittedly the jokes are fun and stuff, but it did raise an eyebrow. It's kind of like, okay, what's going on here, and should we expect this? Like, if they ever do a Friday the 13th requel as some guy just, you know, just stand-up comedian just telling jokes. It'd be funny if some guy just popped his head in the screen and said a joke and then disappeared, you know, and then every 15 minutes or so just tell a joke and disappear, you know. You could pay Jerry Seinfeld like $500 million to be in Friday the 13th, part 13, and just go like, why'd the chicken cross the road? And Jerry Seinfeld's not British, but I don't know why I did that, but the British accent. But I mean, that'll probably more or less be my review of the movie. I think I can say without spoiling it too much, because I think it's like in the first trailer. But one thing I did like about the movie that did something kind of new with the acid, the alien acid for blood was the other thing I did like plays into this as well is on this where the spaceship or wherever they find all this stuff on, they travel to and find that you can watch the movie to find out why they're on this ship. It has to do with them wanting to get the hell off that planet and go to a nicer planet with sun that actually gets sunny during the day. Is the one aspect that kind of reminded me of a video game that I liked about this movie was the thing when it's like weightless, like every now and then, like I don't know if it's some kind of set interval of time, like the gravity will kick on, and it's just like when they first enter it, that's kind of funny. They see a dead rat in the duct or whatever, just floating there, and then the gravity comes on. It's like, and then it's like ching, and then it starts floating. So that aspect of the movie was kind of cool, which plays into the scene I was going to talk about at the end, where she blasts all these. She gets kind of a different version of the pulse rifle that was debuted in Aliens, and ends up blasting all these aliens in a weightless situation. So then the acid for blood is just floating around, and they have to like escape and navigate through it. It's really kind of a cool idea and remind you of a video game. And then to make it even worse, then the gravity kicks in, I think, at some point and makes it even more difficult. So it's definitely reminding you of a video game. But that's also, before I end the review, something else I wanted to touch on. Is that obviously we can assume once the D Company took over Fox, the plan of what Ridley Scott had been starting to do with his, Prometheus and then Covenant was going to be scrapped, and especially because I don't think Covenant necessarily did that well a business, I can't imagine. Obviously the whole trilogy or whatever, the series of films is scrapped, which I just think is such a bummer. I would have liked to see a continuation or the end of the third, if the third film was going to be the final one. Would have been cool to see it and see a conclusion with David or whatever. It's just so fucking frustrating when you got two movies of a trilogy made, if it was supposed to be a trilogy, assuming, and then we're just never going to get the third movie. So annoying. But what can only be assumed is once the D Company took over Fox, no more of that story. We're going to do something different. And of course, what's the D Company going to do? They're going to do the safest route, which is, okay, what are the most two successful Alien films in the franchise? Probably Alien and Aliens. So in our requel to, which is of course the fad going on now, the sequel to Alien, which is 45 years old, we're going to make it basically feel like a combination of Alien and Aliens, the two most presumably popular, most successful films, I can only assume, in the franchise. It's going to be a perfectly safe movie. So combination of Alien and Aliens, and a little bit of, at the very end, a little bit of Alien Resurrection thrown in there, and I think they do actually reference Prometheus as well. And I didn't know if the creature, which I actually thought was really kind of scary, all skinny and dangly and stuff at the very end. I don't know if that was supposed to partly resemble like a engineer from Prometheus or not, but it reminded me of like the baby alien and Alien Resurrection. That kind of felt like a callback to that, and so I did think that was interesting. It's like a sequel to Alien, but it's also got deep, little aspects of Aliens as well. So the first half kind of feels more like Alien, and maybe it's got, it never necessarily, the only thing that kind of feels like Aliens, of course, is getting the pulse rifle and having more than, having droves of aliens that she can blow away with the pulse rifle. And also having to, I won't spoil it, but there's a bit where they could fly away and save themselves, but then at the very end she just decides to go back for another part of the crew member, which felt like the end of Aliens as well. So it's kind of like, yeah, just a mishmash of Alien and Aliens. So although I actually kind of really more or less enjoyed it, I mean, I don't know what the hell my star rating would be. I mean, I don't think it's, I might have enjoyed it as much, and maybe not as much as Prometheus. Yeah, I probably can't. Well, what would my star rating be? I mean, I guess it'd be like 2.5 stars, or maybe 2.5 stars. So I don't know if I can decide whether between 2.5 or 2 3/4 stars out of 4 stars, somewhere around there for Alien Romulus. Is that what it's called? Alien Romulus? And also, I was kind of disappointed. I think they did it in whatchamacallit, in Covenant, where they did the old 1979, like Alien credits slowly appearing. Like I'd be fine with them if any movie that's got the word alien in the title. I'd be fine with them just doing that in the from here on out. Like I just think that's so iconic. So I was kind of expecting that, honestly, and disappointed when that didn't happen. I'm pretty sure that's how the title comes onto the screen in Alien Covenant. And before I end the review, one thing I want to say in closing is I do feel, and it's so oftentimes the case with movies these days, I did feel like they really, really, really milked this movie at the end, and it was like 15 or 20 minutes longer than it needed to be, and I was losing interest like towards the end of the movie, and actually had enjoyed it and got my, whatever money's worth up until, maybe, 20 minutes before the movie was over. And then it kind of, for me, it overstayed its welcome, and it was just doing more and more and more, and it kind of, I guess it played in with, it had to do with like the, that tall, gangly, skinny, whatever the hell hybrid thing at the end. And that's kind of where it's part Prometheus, as well. So it's like a mishmash of aliens, Alien Resurrection, and Prometheus, and who knows whatever else. Ghostbusters Afterlife with the character telling jokes. So it's got a little bit of everything sprinkled in this movie. So I can't decide. I mean, I guess I can, might as well just, not that it really matters, might as well just say 2 3/4 stars out of 4 stars for Alien Romulus. It like I say, it doesn't really do too much or bring too much new to the table into the universe, but I love the universe of the first movie so much, production, sound design and stuff, that I mean, I don't really care what the hell characters are doing. If they're just walking around and pressing buttons and looking at them 79 fuzzy video screens and all that kind of stuff, and that one scene where towards the end or whatever, where they come into the lab, it's all white and and all this, and it just harkens back to 1979 sets. It's just like, oh my god, I just eat that stuff up like crazy, and I just love that stuff. And I think I've talked about it way too much, but this movie, if you like obviously the first film from '79, and you love, as I do, the production design and sound design, you're probably gonna like at least like this movie for that aspect and stuff and whatever, and I guess that does it for my review. Probably too long, but so is this movie, so I guess it's only fitting. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.